Good morning, friends. Jill here. Welcome back to Whispering Willow Farm. Hope you all are having a wonderful Monday and start to your week. I'm outside in the raised bed garden because today is a day I've been waiting for. Mainly like the next 2 days are going to be pretty busy for me. I finally got the high tunnel completely cleaned out, all the cattle panels out, all the floors cleaned and washed out, which I will take you guys down there and show you in just a second. But I have been stalking my local nurseries. I'm wondering when they're going to be getting plant starts. Now, it was really, really hot towards the end of the summer. And so when I was calling, most of the people were telling me that their distributor who they were getting them for, or if they were growing them themselves in their greenhouses, that they were just behind because it was too hot. Which is okay for me because I'm growing in a tunnel, but it's kind of getting to the point where it's a little too late where I am. It's okay, but to be putting them outside, and that is if your intent is to sell. They may not get as big. So for me, that really wasn't a problem putting my starts in the high tunnel, because the point of a high tunnel is a season extension. I'm pretty okay. But for my raised beds, most years the last week in August is when I am putting my starts in the ground for the fall. I've been a little late before and done it the first week in September, but I've never waited this long to put my brassicas outside. And so it doesn't worry me a whole lot because I'm not selling any of this produce. So if my cabbages don't get huge, that's not a big deal. If they're a smaller size, that's not really a big deal to me personally. However, if you're wanting to sell your things, that may be something to be mindful of is, are they getting out in enough time to where they're going to get established and mature and be bigger before that frost comes and kind of stunts them a little. We have a little, you see her? You see the little tail? Come here, Mama. Come here, Mama. Come here. We have a little kitty cat that decided to show up and have her babies here on our farm. And so we've got Mama. Come here. Come here. She seems really friendly. She doesn't seem like a stray at all. I don't really go around picking her up, but she seems friendly. Come here, Mama. Come here. So she had 5 little kittens underneath the back deck. She's really needy. She comes meowing at the back door every morning for breakfast. And it's so funny. She follows me everywhere, and she keeps following me down to the garden, which could pose a problem. I'm going to have to keep her up that way. But I wanted to show you guys the plant starts that I got. And I wanted to show you guys the tunnel and talk through some things that I noticed when I was shopping around at these nurseries that just didn't make a lot of sense to me. And those are things that I just wanted to talk to you through. I did go to a local nursery that I'd never been to before, because now that we live in a different area, I have access to different places that I typically wouldn't have made the drive to go to before. And I was really, really pleasantly surprised. I went to a place in North Little Rock, and they were just so cool. I mean, the whole store was so cool. They had a lot of really good options. And they had all of these amazing tulip bulbs and daffodil bulbs. This is the black parrot. So it was so funny. I was actually talking to Jessica, sending her pictures of these and talking through, hey, where do you think I should put some of this stuff? And she actually has some of these, she told me. And she told me where they were. She actually recommended that I dig them up and move them somewhere else. But that was really cool. So we kind of got to brainstorm about some stuff. Here's this apricot impression, which I think is just beautiful. Look at that. And then we have New Santa. And this one was really just, I thought it was fancy. Look at the little frills on that. So I'm thinking those are actually, when you walk up the stairs to our house, there's this little built-in bed by the front door that gets pretty good sun, and Jessica's always grown flowers in there like cosmos or something from seed. But I think that these would do really well in there, and so did she. So I think that may be where I put those. Regardless, I've never grown tulips before, So this will be a first for me. I did get a lot of daffodils ordered and some other things ordered. So we're gonna be doing more bulbs this year than we ever have, which I personally am really going to like, just because bulbs seem really easy, and that's something that can come back every year. I don't really have to worry about. And so that's something that I'm wanting to kind of venture into a little bit more. All right. What are you doing, Mama? What, are you mad at me? Because I haven't given you breakfast yet? Because I had a video to shoot? Is that what's going on? Get off of my bed. Anybody have tips on how to keep cats out of your garden? So the nursery I went to had a lot of really good options. Here's some lettuce. Here's chard. I'd actually never seen this before either. This was like a salad mix, and I haven't seen that started before. We've got broccoli, we've got cauliflower, which is what all of those big trays are. I've got rainbow chard, some more rainbow chard. These are actually going to go in the Greenstalk. Then I have some red cabbage, just some regular cabbage. This is like Chinese cabbage. And then I found dino kale, which I had never seen these before, available to be started. And usually I would start things like my kale from seed because it's so easy, but I don't have any more dino kale seeds. So when I saw those, I snagged them. And then I had some stuff up here that I was able to grab. So we have Brussels sprouts, some red leaf lettuce. All of those are Brussels. And then some more of this. The variety is New Red Fire lettuce. We actually really like this a lot, and it does really good on the Greenstalk as well. So I was glad that I was able to get as much as I got. However, planting a fall garden isn't near as popular as planting the spring and summer garden. So one of the downfalls of having to buy your starts in the fall time is that, one, there's just not a lot of variety, and then two, there's not a lot just like available as far as, you know, you can go to a nursery in the spring and the summer, and I mean there's going to be hundreds of starts available. In the fall, where I live anyways, there's hardly anything, which is why I prefer to start from seed. One, you get to grow a lot of varieties that aren't available. You do have to think about that way in advance. And you guys know we were in a season of transition, and starting hundreds of seeds was just not in the cards for me at all. Okay, I really want to talk more about that in just a second, but I just made it down to the tunnel, and I want to show you guys what I've been working my hiney off for. Look at the clean high tunnel. My goodness, it feels so good. I went through and cleared out a bunch of peppers. We cleared out all of these beds, took the panels down. So now my plan for the tunnel is to get in here today and amend the beds. We got some azomite that we're going to be putting in here, which is just going to be adding trace minerals back into the soil. It's actually really good. And then we got this organic wetting agent. It comes in like a big gallon thing, and it's a concentrate that you mix with water. And essentially what you do is you mix up that concentrate, and to my knowledge, I haven't done a whole lot of research on how I'm supposed to apply it, but I think you just pour it into the soil, and it's supposed to help the soil retain moisture better. And so that is something that we're going to be continuing to work on, is just adding organic matter back into the soil. I think that's really important, is continuing to add to and not take away. When you think about all the plants that have been planted in these beds, and they're just taking everything that they need from the soil to be able to produce fruit and thrive, if we don't add those things back in, you're going to have really depleted soil, which means the next season or the next time you plant, you're going to have really depleted plants. Obviously, that's not something I want. I want these plants to thrive, and so that's what I'm going to be spending today and tomorrow doing, is getting these 4 long beds amended to get ready to plant all of those brassicas that I just bought. I have more leeway in here on getting them in here later, but like I mentioned, I'm probably going to go ahead and plant the ones that need to be planted outside in the raised bed garden first. So when I get done doing this, that's probably what I'm going to do, is go plant those and then come back in here. And if this takes me a couple days to get all the amendments done, that's fine, because I have more of a window growing in the high tunnel than I do outside. I am going to be doing the same method that I did at the old house when I grew last winter here, and so that will look like putting that 9-gauge wire over the beds that I'm growing brassicas in, and then I'm going to put row cover, and that's just going to prevent the frost from killing off things, which I really encourage you guys to do. Even just if you have bad pests, it's really good for like keeping the pest off. I just found that it was really easy to implement it. Like, it was really easy to do. That 9-gauge wire is really cheap. You can get, insect netting, row cover, whatever it is, depending on how cold it is that you're getting. And it worked really well, mainly just for pest control issues as well. But one thing I wanted to talk to you guys before I got off this video is something that if you are in the place where you are looking to buy starts and you're shopping around at your store getting ready to buy some of these things, to be mindful of, because I went to a couple stores and I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a ripoff. I mean, I was blown away. Not only at the fact that it was a ripoff, but how many people were buying it and didn't realize. And so let's talk about that for a second. Everything that I bought came in a 6-cell pack. So that means I'm getting 6 plants of each thing. So when you buy, cabbage and you plant a cabbage, that one transplant is going to produce 1 head of cabbage. That one transplant of cauliflower is going to produce 1 head of cauliflower. Now your broccoli, there's a little freedom because you produce that main head of broccoli, but then there's lots of side shoots, so you get a lot of extras in there. But Brussels sprouts, you'll have your 1 stalk and it will produce lots of little Brussels sprouts around it. But that is something to be mindful of. And so I went to a couple places this weekend and couldn't find 6-packs at all. They were only selling 4-inch and 5-inch pots, and they were really expensive. So for lettuce, there was like that red leaf lettuce I showed you guys. There was a 4-inch pot that had 1 little sprig in it, and it was $5. Okay, that's not like, whoa, I mean, that's expensive. Then I also found a 5-inch pot of cabbage, and it was $7.95. These were not organic starts, and so that is something to think about. If you go to the farmer's market, or if you go to a health food store like Whole Foods, you are buying organic, like a head of organic cabbage for not even $3, right? Like, I've never paid more than $3 for organic cabbage at Whole Foods or the farmer's market. So why on earth would I spend $8 for the plant and then I still have to go home and plant it and care for it and tend to it? Like, that's a ripoff. And I couldn't understand, why the prices were so high, and then I was also baffled at the people who were just steadily buying it because they didn't know, and maybe they didn't think about that. And so that is something that I would like to encourage you guys with today. Think about those things, and if you're talking to someone and they're talking about wanting to start a fall garden and they're wanting to go look at plant starts, maybe mention that to them as well, because yes, there's so much value in growing your own food and learning. However, if you're growing food because you want to reduce your budget, your food budget, depending on your why, that will determine on whether that is the best option for you or not. Because you could go to the farmer's market and buy that way cheaper. And so I would encourage you, there's no way I would do that. I would buy from another local farmer before I did that, because for one, I am growing, the bulk of our food to be able to reduce our costs. And then when I think about buying the plant, my time tending to it, planting it in the ground, all the other things that are going to come with that, it no longer makes sense for why I'm choosing to grow my family's food. And so that is just something I wanted to throw out there. I was so just kind of baffled at what in the world. And I was surprised too, because in years past, and even if I've not bought starts in years past, I've always went to look. I went to see what they have available. I went to see what their prices are. I went to see if there was organic options or not. So I'm always going to the nurseries around the seasons, that you're able to plant. This was the first year that I noticed that some places that I'd always carried 6-packs were no longer doing that. They were just doing those single 4-inch pots and charging more than what they charged in years past for a 6-pack. And so that was very interesting to me. I'm not really sure where that shift is coming about and why that's happening, but if anything, I hope it encourages you guys maybe who have been buying starts in the past to maybe, you know, think about the investment it would cost you just to start your own seeds. And if you have a way to do that, you do not need a greenhouse to start seeds. I started seeds in my herb room at my old house under, you know, a shelf that I bought at Home Depot for $30, some cheap grow lights I bought on Amazon. You know, you can absolutely make it work if that's something that you're wanting to do. You just think, well, I don't have a greenhouse, I can't do this. Yeah, you can. Absolutely, you can. And so maybe that's just food for thought. Maybe that's just something to think about while your shopping starts, or maybe if you're wanting to try to move into starting your own seeds. I definitely encourage it. I do also know too that there are seasons in life when that's just what you have to do, right? We were in a season where we just had to buy starts. It would have been way cheaper for me, even for the affordable starts I bought. It still would have been cheaper for me to start my own. I just wasn't in a place to do that. And so I recognize that, and you may be in a similar place yourself. And that's okay. Don't beat yourself up over it. But I wanted to show off the tunnel to you guys, all the hard work I put into that over the last few days. But I have got to change out of this sweater because it was 65 when I woke up, and now it's steadily climbing. But I've got a busy day, and I cannot wait. Planting is my favorite time of year, whether it is spring planting, fall planting. I love it all. I get to spend way more time in the garden. It's my absolute favorite. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I'll talk to you soon.